Hello there. Niiamahashong here, leader of the Trailblazer Oasis. And today I want to share with you what's real for me. A few days ago, I got asked a simple question. A simple question that opened up an entire new realm of playing and being in this game here. The question is, what is all of this for? Why are you doing what you're doing? And this had come from a conversation I was having with a powerful gentleman in shaman who was helping me look at my own, at the elements that I was bringing into my business and how I was showing up for various clients and some of the different services and offerings that I wanted to provide. And he noticed from my language that there seemed to be an energetic block that was taking place. And so we spent time together and he slowed me down. And he got a chance to understand what it is that I wanted to uniquely offer. I'm a master when it comes to culture. That's been my experience in the past. And there's just a lot that I have to offer to people when it comes to company cultures and such. And the invitation that he gave me was to go beyond just the surface level of what culture means for me or how I can benefit people or organizations through the culture experience, and get to why, out of all the things in the world, I was uniquely here to do that. And it's an interesting, it caught me for a loop at first. You know, I have the tendency when I talk to people to try and come off in a way that makes me seem, I'm going to say, polished. And I remember the answers that came out of me were around like, well, this is just an innate skill in me. I should totally go ahead and do this. Corporations are like, there's a financial element to this that also works out very well. Why wouldn't I do it? And it simply slowed me down. And he asked, I see what you're talking about here, but what is this really about? And I can feel in this moment here, I can feel myself being a little bit at my edge in just saying what came out of my words, came out of my mouth directly here. And what came out is, I feel that I am here on this earth to help usher in the next era of humanity. I am here for a reason. And the reason here is to help lead the leaders that are going to change the entire game. For me, it feels that we are in an inflection point in life and in the scheme of humanity. And I've chosen to be here to play a part in it. And his response to me was actually quite refreshing. His response was, okay, you just became a whole lot more interesting to me. I see you as one of mine. First, you were an interesting guy, kind of a cool person, but now I know that you're about something. And it's been that there. I left that conversation with a number of different insights, but more than anything else, I left aligned to my actual purpose in life. I felt I left there more grounded to that purpose. And also with more, I'll say this, with an elevated point of view for all of the various things that I was taking that were going on in my life. You see, I'd entered that conversation with a lot of fear of how am I going to grow the business? How am I going to take things to the next level? How do I get all the different things that were on my plate completed? And how do I play this game differently? And I left that conversation with a new vantage point of seeing just how everything that I do aligns with my actual purpose here. And it's something that I don't want to like hide back. And this, like, you'll see this from me on the outside. It looks as though I'm able to say confidently, this is what I'm here for. This is what my purpose is. On the inside, I can feel some heat, some butterflies inside, because there's a part of me that feels that this is too much and it will come off being frou-frou. And at the same time, I know that this is why I'm here. This is the game that I'm playing. Even the way I brush my teeth now, I ask myself, since I am here for this, how is brushing my teeth contributing to my purpose? The connection that I got was around like water conservation, because I know that some of the people I work with are really big on climate change. and they're going to make some impact there. So it's really been interesting to see how that one conversation and that one question connected me back with my actual purpose here and has shifted everything that I've done. To many people, there won't be a shift. They'll see me taking action. To many people, they'll be like, finally, like, you've been doing this the entire time. Like, there's no difference here. It's just that now you've moved out of doing it sometimes to doing it intentionally. And for me, the entire game has changed. So much so that I couldn't start this conversation without actually bringing that into the room as well. I have no idea where this is going to go. I have no idea how this is going to continue to transform and come out into life. But there's an element here of reminding ourselves and taking the time to slow down to see what are you actually here for? On what level does all the problems that you have, all the challenges, all the fears become completely irrelevant in sake of serving something far greater than yourself? I want to give you an opportunity to slow down into that. And then allow yourself to be messy as you continue to build and grow in alignment with that purpose. We're going to play here today. I see you. I see you as a trailblazer. And I want you to know that this is the game that we're on. It's the game that we're playing. I invite you to come play. It's with that invitation here that I'm really excited that Alexis Arden accepted my invitation to come and play today. Alexis is someone who I know to be an incredibly powerful person and who inspires me with the way that her brain works and with the impact that she's able to create on a regular basis. Alexis, I find myself wanting to speak more, but I also want to bring you into this room here. So I'd like to just say welcome and thank you for accepting the invitation to be here today.
Thank you for extending the invitation. I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Yeah, that's good. We're gonna have a lot of fun. It's very interesting, Alexis, when because I noticed, like, when I shift into the energy of my purpose, things become very serious. They become serious and they get heavy. Right? I would love for us to be able to keep the space of our own individual purposes in this conversation. But one of the things that I've been finding about myself is I'm able to, it's almost like I have a control over gravity, the gravity of the situation. I can take, like, it can be heavy or it can be full of gravity. It can, while we're still being light, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
we're both. We're the yin and the yang. We're the light and the dark. We're all the colors of the rainbow. So just because you're experiencing one doesn't mean the other doesn't stay right where it was.
Yeah. So let's I love that there. Let's bring all that into today's conversation. I love to spend our time focused on you and where you are going in your journey. But let's start out a little bit about where you've been. Like, what I love to understand here is to give us a chance to see what your journey has been like from the outside, from someone looking at you and maybe following your path from the outside. What does it look like for you? I'd love to hear your highlight reel of accomplishments, some of the things that you're proud of. Yeah, like this is our opportunity to really get a chance to see you from that perspective, and then we'll spend the rest of our conversation going deeper and growing from there.
Sure. Highlight reel. Well, I mean, if you were really to look back, it wouldn't all be highlights. But since we're talking about those, I will say that the things that I'm known for, if that's what we're discussing, is that for the better part of a decade, I was in the film and entertainment industry and turned down as many A-list celebrities as I said yes to in terms of working with them. And I was somebody that was a catalyst for success, whether that was as a producer or a talent manager or as someone who would help somebody, structure and continue to expand their empire, whatever it may be. That was my role until I decided to transition where my ability to advocate for someone living in fulfillment turned towards personal development. So rather than building these great external achievements for people, I turned to internal achievement. And that was way more fulfilling for me when I made that shift. And I've been doing that for the better part of the last decade. And it really is, when we're talking about being on purpose, it is my why. It is absolutely 100% my why. And I couldn't be more thrilled than to have the successes that I've had in fully giving myself the permission to live and create this life that really serves my why so powerfully.
Awesome. And Alexis, I find myself curious, like, what is your why? If you had to share it with me.
Oh yeah. Well, it really comes around the fact that, if I were to put it in a nutshell, I believe that as spiritual beings having a human experience, we're constantly in contradiction within ourselves. The spirit, or the soul, however one refers to it, the collective unconscious in us, is inherently selfless, and it is infinite, and it is certain. And when we come down into our individual human bodies, we're selfish. We have to be. I have to put my oxygen mask on before I help anybody else. Otherwise, I will perish and I will cease to exist and be able to help you. I'm not infinite. I have an expiration date when I'm here in a body. And the certainty that lives at the level of the soul can't exist in our human nature, because that would really interfere with our survival mechanisms: fight or flight, predator or prey. And that's the essence of where fear comes from. We don't have that at the level of the soul. And so what I'm trying to do in my work on the planet is give people a deeper understanding or awareness of that, and giving them the tools of knowing that the mind and the heart, or the emotions, are the bridge between the soul and the body. And when you can utilize those in service of living congruently with your why and your purpose, and have a soulfully embodied experience, then you're winning at this game of life. And that's where real fulfillment starts to come in, when you go, oh wow, this soul chose this body for a reason. Let's let them actually serve each other and go out there and experience what we're here to experience. That's my why, is that every person on the planet can have that.
I want to thank you for that, Alexis. Actually, I'm looking right now at a poster right above me. It's a poster of the Marvel character Nick Fury,
Yeah.
and I'm taken back. I talk to people about this a lot. We had a conversation several months ago where in that conversation you helped me actually come back and align with my soul's purpose, and to find more of that congruency there. It's interesting because now I look at that poster, and it is the representation of what I had said earlier around leading the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity. I look at that, I'm like, oh yeah, Nick Fury, and you captured
Yes.
that. I had said something like, I'm an Avenger and Captain America, and you're like, no, no, you're not. No, you're not. So
No, you're an outlier. You're a trailblazer.
exactly, and the bringing together the group of outliers and trailblazers is really where my magic lies, where this journey is going. So I just really want to just like speak to that in this moment. When you were sharing that, I
Mm,
was like, I can't be talking about my purpose right now if I'm not talking to someone who had helped me see it before I
mm.
really was able to I would say it, to embrace it. So thank you.
Bravo.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, my pleasure.
So how are you bringing this to life? Like, in what way are you bringing your purpose to life at this time?
Well, I have my private coaching practice in which I serve as many people as I can. And that's challenging because I'm one person and there's, at least in Chronos time, only so many hours in a day. I do it on a wider scale with events and retreats and speaking and blogging or vlogging and staying in touch with my community through social media channels. Um, but I also am a master embodiment practitioner, which is just part of how I take all of these components, mind, body, heart, and soul, and have them work in unison and in harmony with one another. And so my master embodiment expertise, as well as all the different methodologies that I've really studied and leaned into, specifically the DeMartini method, I would say, had me really uncover this deep desire and need for a new movement practice that doesn't yet exist, that was going to house and offer all the different elements that I seek in my mental practices, my emotional practices, my physical practices, and my spiritual practices all in one place. I feel like I've been piecemealing, if you will, my needs from different places. And I thought, well, what if I were actually to create something where I was to get it all in one shot and get it all in one dose? And so that's been my latest project, which I'm very excited about. It's still in development, so I don't want to say too much more about it, but that's also been taking up a great deal of my time.
Fantastic there, Alexis. I think I want to play with you now. Like I'm glad. I'm I'm excited for what's coming next, but I want to play with you now.
Let's play.
Let's go. Let's go. So we got to use this time here to explore a bit of what's going on for you now, right?
Yeah.
Like if this was, let's just start off here because I'm not necessarily sure where we should go. There's no place in my place in particular. It's been really interesting. So since I had the purpose conversation, I realized that for me, I used to start off my conversations with my bar is a life-changing conversation. If we don't have a life-changing conversation, why are we having it? And Alexis, it's been very interesting, but recently that bar has been feeling too low. And so without what I like to do is open us to a possibility here. If today was going to be a world-changing conversation, are you open to the possibility of that happening in this conversation?
Abso-fucking-lutely. Oh, can I curse?
You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, then let's go ahead and play. Like for you in the game that you're playing right now, what would contribute to this being a world-changing conversation for you?
I think you and I both operate under the guideline of, any perception shift, in my opinion, because I'm the only thing ever in the way of what it is that I want to create, what it is that I'm here to learn and discover and uncover that could be, globally altering for me, being the axis that my world spins on. So I think anytime that there's an opening in perspective, whether that be neutralizing a one-sided perspective, or bumping up a viewpoint on something that I haven't seen in the past, I always feel like that insight, that moment of perspective, just shifting ever so slightly or massively, is always the game changer.
Awesome. So let's play. Like, how do you want to play in today's conversation?
Great question. I always love to explore how I am like I said before, it's always going to be me that's in the way of anything. So how am I getting in the way of really being able to accomplish everything that I want to accomplish, which feels like a massive challenge because it does have global scale. Feeling that, I'm one grain of sand in a universe of beaches filled with sand. How am I going to create this monumental change? Even though I have a very deep sense of it being my mission, and the passion and the drive and the resources to make that a reality, I still have this, limiting belief that it's just not humanly possible.
I find myself in this moment. I'm like, I'm really glad that you are someone who has access to being able to get beyond what the human what we experience on a human basis regularly to access, what mind, what was it, mind, body, heart, and soul.
You got it.
Yeah, I want to make
Yeah.
sure I'm getting your world. Um, so what about it feels like? Tell me more about this. I'm hearing where it's coming from overall. If you were going to bring it down, if you're going to bottom line it in this moment for us here, like
Yeah.
what would it be?
Well, I have a vision for a global movement,
Mm-hmm.
and the idea itself is very fleshed out.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it's massive. And with how much I already have on my plate, which doesn't even scratch the surface of what that would require piled on its plate, I have no idea how I would ever even begin to create that, let alone actually achieve and accomplish the full vision of it. I can't even imagine even starting to create it, let alone it being created and having done all of that work to manifest it.
So let's leave that second part out then, right? If even starting it is you can't even imagine that. Let's leave out the second part of it of like how it's going to grow off and go on from there. Because what I get about you is like this is really important work, not just to you
Yeah.
but to us.
Yeah.
So that feels like a separate thing to have to take on. Tell me more, like, and if we focused on I think there's two elements that I would like to focus on here. If today, right? If today you were given the opportunity to simply start, and like almost no one would even know that this movement has begun, right? And instead, like you just moved you. Where would you begin?
Great question. I mean, I think that I would probably start to take all of the beautifully mapped out vision or plan from inside of me and get it outside of me, meaning put it on paper. Actually start to like build a document and build whatever vision boards and build all of the things that I would need, all the resources that it would take, like actually just get it out of me so that it's spinning in a vacuum, and commit to it in some form of reality outside of myself.
Cool. So let's just take that and like not even like make it into anything more than it needs to be, you know, and put that over to the side for a bit here, because I realize I fall into my own trap on this here a lot, of getting enrolled in your problem on this, and I was like, oh wait, hold on, wait a minute, you're someone who has for a decade, for your first decade of work, we're working, producing and creating things with A-list celebrities and beyond, saying no to as many as you said yes to, and then you've also transitioned into lean into something that's far greater than this. The how of what is going on is available to you. In fact, you came up with the response to that almost immediately. If you're like, I'm just gonna just do this next thing. I'm curious, like what's underneath what is underneath all this that makes it's not even the fact that this is massive. It being massive is not it's not an issue in and of itself. What about this makes it feel different for you in this moment? Does that make sense? Like the question I'm asking, I may have left it a little bit
I mean,
too.
I definitely think I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I think that it's that bigger question of, you know, I gave you a doing answer, but who am I being in doing that or not doing that is where you're getting at. Am I right?
Yeah, that's
Kind of the bigger question.
let's go down that path.
Yeah.
Let's be more on that path than to doing it. I myself took us there. So
Yeah. Um,
I'm curious what's underneath. Like you're
yeah.
someone who helps people get visions taken care of. You're someone who's built
Yeah.
up. You've done this. You've built movements already. You know, you've done it on behalf of
Yeah.
other people, from what I know about you. But you've been instrumental in the exponential success. Every time there's an inflection point in someone's business, I hear that's where you have played in part, in yourself in particular. So what is happening here? What's happening underneath this for you right now?
Oh, you're on the spot here. I am really feeling into that. I mean, I can feel that we're dancing around the center of it. Um, and I'm really clear that it's a limiting belief around what I'm capable of when it comes to doing it for myself versus someone else. That I'm very clear on. But peeling back the why on that is where I'm sitting. Um, hmm. I mean, I'm pretty sure it has to do with like a worthiness issue. Um, you know, the people that I did it for were certainly worthy of not only what I was doing, but any inherent success that they achieved as a result. Um, and there's definitely that value issue inside of me of, am I really worthy of that? Is the message valuable? Am I the most valuable messenger of it? Um, do I really even have what it takes to build something of this scale from nothing? Um, what's it going to cost me? And all the fear that comes with, oh my God, what's it going to cost me? If it works out and if it doesn't work out on both ends, it's going to cost me either way. So yeah, I mean, it's all of that, which is a lot, I know.
No, it's like it's very reasonable. Let's like
Yeah,
it doesn't feel a lot at all. I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. Like you're taking on
yeah.
something that's massive for you in this moment. And let's answer some of these questions here. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start off with that last one, because I think a lot of times we miss that. Like there is a cost to this here. Right.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask this in two parts here. The first part is just to ask the rhetorical question: what is it going to cost you? If from what you know right now to bring your vision to life as you currently see it?
I mean, my brain always thinks in terms of resources when I think of cost, right? So I think of, well, it's going to cost me financially, and that's a really big risk.
So I'm going to pause you really quickly, Alexis,
Yeah.
because your brain is more than capable of keeping you from doing this, and your brain is more than capable of helping you find the solutions here. This is not like this is not a brain conversation here. It's definitely far more in like the body and soul element of this
Mm.
here. So what is that? You will be able to come up with the resources that I'm not concerned with, and we can talk about some specific things around specific resources at some
Yeah.
point. But like I'm curious about what it's going to cost you as a
Yeah. Well, I mean, I include in resources, like it's going to cost me energy, it's going to cost me emotion. You know, I'm a mom, it's going to cost me mom guilt because it takes a lot of time and energy, which are also resources, to build a global movement. I'm a wife. I, you know, I care for a home that, you know, runs on, you know, my motherly nurturing energy. Um, you know, that is like a number one place where I go, oh, you're selfish, you know, to go after your dream and what it's going to cost you in terms of what, you know, is your number one value, your family. And I know a lot of women can relate to that who are mothers. And that's very real for me. It will cost me that. Um, and it would cost me the the risk of, you know, having gone through all of that. I mean, that the family thing is one aspect of what it might cost me. And then on the far reaching end, having gone through all of that and realizing that it was a failure. And then not only did I pay those costs, but now I'm doubling down on the costs that I had to pay because it didn't even work out in the end. And now I'm devastated because I feel like I failed at this business venture and I failed and proved myself that I don't have any value in the business venture. And I also failed at having value as a mother while I did it, or as a wife while I did it.
What else?
Mm. My ego. It will certainly cost me my ego. Um, well, it's not really my ego, it's my id. People get those confused. But what has made me so successful and what I rely on could evaporate in a massive crash and burn.
Yeah, as thank you for bringing all of these up to our conversation here. That
Yeah.
last part there, what has made you so successful, what you rely on. Actually, I'm going to take away that kind of the frame there. I'm going to ask you
Mm.
a separate question right now. I just want to just kind of voice some of these things here, and I'll let you know why too, Alexis. We started out like in our conversation. There were two times that really struck me, and maybe you can tell me a
Mm.
little bit about like what it was like for you here. But there were two times in our conversation where you put your fingers right above your mouth, right?
Mm.
And it was as if you wanted to say something or you felt that you said something that you needed to take back or something like that, and
Mm.
like it hit me, it hit me in a place I wasn't expecting, right? um, do you remember when that occurred? I can tell you. So the two times that it happened was when you started talking about the massive vision that you have, and then like you went like this, and then you're like, but I'm not going to talk about it right now because it's still in development stages.
Mm.
And then
Okay.
the next time was absolutely, right? And so just as we go here, I know that it's a place that I'm curious about as we're continuing to explore here. What is it that you're in my mind? I'm like, okay, is her body saying that there's something that she wants to be saying that can't come out into this world, or
Mm.
that if it has been said, it needs to be taken back or held back. So I just want to just give some
Mm.
space to that before we continue,
Mm.
because it's
Interesting. I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. Not that's really present and conscious for me. It doesn't mean that unconsciously. I mean, clearly, if I did that, there was something alive in it, but it's not conscious for me.
okay. Yeah, and that's why I wanted to call it out, right? Is because
Yeah,
I know like we talk body. I know that you really understand your body, so like
I
I
really understand my body. So
yeah. So there's just
the
these different things.
absolutely
So
was, can I
yeah,
curse? But,
yeah.
you know, me saying I can't talk about it. I mean, the only thing I can think is, you know, in respect of that is how close I am playing it to my chest, because I do have a lot of um, energy around it. And some of that energy is showing up as fear, and some of that energy is showing up as enthusiasm. But there is a lot of energy to it. And it's an energy that I do feel like I need to contain somewhat. So that may have been what that was.
Awesome. Like, and I don't need to like have an answer in this conversation here, but I do want to just like put up some awareness around it, especially with all the other things. For you, body is something that it means something. So I don't want to
A
just,
lot,
I don't want to
yeah.
miss it. I don't want to just miss it.
Thank you. Thank you
Absolutely.
for speaking my language.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
one of my skills is being a chameleon. So I have to understand what is the language that we're speaking here. Right. So I'm hearing some of the things that it's costing me. I want to continue down this path here. And I just like the part about like the being a mother and your family, like, and how this is going to impact your family,
Mm.
and the energy that's involved from there. It feels very real. What I'm going to ask you here is along those lines. We're talking about what it's going to cost you. I'm curious because I see every new beginning as a time that something else has to end. So what in you right now would have to die in order to make room for where you're going next?
It's a really great question, and it's one that I've actually been pondering, and um, I haven't figured out, it feels like Sophie's Choice, like which darling do you kill, you know? Um, and that's, it's a real struggle for me right now to say my time and my energy is really, really precious and exponentially valuable. And I, I, I know that I need to let go of the way that that has been looking for me for the last however many years in order to give birth to this new thing. Um, it's interesting. Like I'm having kind of an insight moment actually about, when you are actually really pregnant with something like an actual person in your body, how there are so many things that change and there are so many adjustments that you need to make around that change. And that's kind of what's happening. It's like I'm pregnant with this idea that is going to be much like growing and birthing something into the world that's massive, just like having a child is. I mean, it changes everything. And what are the adjustments is really the question you're asking that I need to make in order to create space for that pregnancy and that child. And they're not always necessarily easy changes to make, but they're necessary for the greater good of the life that you're bringing into the world. And just looking at it that way is an insight for me. And there are certain things when I was pregnant that I had to give up, especially because the type of pregnancies that I had, which we don't need to go into, but just okay, I can't work out anymore, and I'm a body person, or you can't go out and do some of the like crazy body activities that I would love to do. Like I can't go on roller coasters at the amusement park, and I can't walk around as easily as I used to, and all of that stuff. And so it's kind of like, oh, the equivalent of this is, what am I going to have to say no to that I've relied on for the last several years in order to birth what's gotten me here, but it's not going to get me there. That's pretty intense.
What's intense about it for you?
That's letting go of a life preserver in the middle of a wild ocean. That's scary. That's some scary stuff.
Yeah, it's you took me to when you said that, like physically put me into an experience I had just about a year ago when I treaded water for the first time in an open like group. Like I'm not someone I had actually identified as someone who doesn't swim. I'm someone who looks great in a life vest. I jump like like it's and I'm imagining myself right there in that moment when I was surrounded by six friends. We were in Vietnam. I was surrounded by six friends who were all strong swimmers, and I was like, if there isn't a time, if now isn't the time that I at least attempt to tread water, then when would be the right time? And Alexis, I remember this. I looked over at my wife Nicole, and I was like, Nicole, I'm taking off the vest. You know, like I love you and I trust you. Here, like you got my back if anything happens. And I pass the vest. It's like I'm in the water. The vest comes off the back, and I like push it over to her, you know. And then I start doing the arm thing. I start like whatever it is that treading
Whatever
water
you do,
is.
got to do to
Yeah.
survive, right?
And Alexis, like I'm talking to you now, so clearly, I clearly things worked out. I was able
You
to
made
tread the
it.
water. But the thing about it there, and the thing about this story that's really counterintuitive for me is I felt like about like 1 second of being like, yes, like I can tread water. I'm amongst that group. And then like the entire remaining feeling was I'm pissed. I am pissed right now because how long have I been able to actually tread water? And I've been creating this story in my mind that like I couldn't do it. Like while I look great in the vest, I could also I look great without it too. How many experiences have I been missing out on as a
Mm.
result of this? Like where I had everything I already needed, but I was creating this thing where I needed to hold on to this vest where it wasn't actually needed.
Mm. I mean, that's exactly the analogy. I mean, that's what it feels like. Um, Minus the, oh, I already did it and it's behind me and I was successful and now I'm just pissed that I didn't do it sooner. I haven't had that experience with this quite yet. Um, but it does help give me a little bit of extra inspiration and, oh yeah, duh. You know, that's why it's time to say, you know what, I know how to swim. I'm gonna let this go. Yeah.
What's the life preserver right now for you? Like that comes to mind at this moment. It doesn't have to be it
It's
overall, but like
literally looking at the question that you asked me, going, well, what can you stop doing right now? What can you stop doing? What can you let go of and clear out in order to make space for what's next? Um, you know, it's almost like an emotional or a schedule hoarding experience of, you know, well, I can't let that go, like that's necessary. What if I need that? What if I, you know, that's a big part of my livelihood and my success, and that's what's gotten me here. But again, if I don't let it go, I won't be able to get there.
yeah, yeah.
It's keeping me here.
Do you mind if we explore one more thing along this here? Sometimes it's
Sure.
okay.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Um, and basically, I'm gonna express some things as we're talking that have come to mind as well. I like
Yeah.
and when I think about your story and your journey, I imagine like I see you as someone who's done this for other people time and time again,
Yeah.
in various ways. I imagine that then that for the people that you've done this with, they've had to give up a lot when it came to their family. They had to show up in a way that they weren't able to actually keep that. I imagine that the examples of the people that you've supported in the past have not been able to successfully execute what it is that you're trying to do without
Mm.
without the impact or loss on the family side of things. Is there any truth to that at all? Like I would love to.
Yes. I mean, there is. And I think you're also kind of tapping a vein of a very old story for me, which is me vowing never to put my career or personal ambitions above parenting, children, family. Like, that was a pact I made as a child to myself and to my unborn children as a result of, you know, the bond that I had with my parents, who were working parents, and I was a latchkey kid. Um, in terms of, yeah, I will never, ever allow anything to be more important than my family. And I've seen it in the very successful people that I worked with, who I helped to make successful before I was a mother, or even once I was a mother, um, and was working with people like that, even thought leaders and whatever else. But yeah, just seeing them neglecting to a certain degree everything else in their life to serve their career or their ambitions or their success, and seeing the costs of that in the family dynamics or in other areas of their life, and me feeling the ripple effect of that energy and going, oh wow, yeah, that's, yep, not going to do that, not going to do that, it's not going to be me. And not sitting in judgment of them. I mean, that is who they are and what serves their experience and makes them drive and makes them successful. And, you know, they make their own agreements in their lives and with the people in their lives. But for me, because it was such an old story of I'm not going to do that, I think that's actually really present with this.
And the question that comes to mind is, what if you were able to build whatever it is that you need to build and not have to make that same agreement as it comes to your family? What if you were able to be a model for anyone that comes to be, because you're going to have a vision producer that produces you, right? Like, it is a different, you're in a different game. Like, it's, you are that thought leader. You are that person there, and you will be bringing on people who will be doing what you do so magically to support you and bringing this out there. It's a completely different game here. What if you were able to be that model of what it's like to be able to birth a massive movement while still keeping your family as your top priority? So that even if it does fail, your family grows stronger as a result of this here. Like,
Mm.
what if you were able to be that example there? Who would, and the question along that line there is, if you can even see that as a possibility, who would you be then, Alexis? And I'll be curious about what the costs are, what the costs would be involved to create in that way, what the cost would be to do from that place.
I mean, the cost would be letting go of a whole deeply embedded belief system. I can't, that's not a bad cost. It'll just be a cost. And I'm not
And there's the
sure
belief there
yet
that,
how
like,
to
if
get
you're
there.
successful, your family, like,
Yeah, I don't know
would go through
how to do
struggles.
it, because you said, like, if you can see that it's possible to do it that way.
So
I
like, we're not going to get to like what that's going to look like for you in this conversation. It's not like,
I don't think so.
but I
But
think
yeah,
I
if I
think that's a
could,
place to
yeah.
spend the time with. Like, for me, it's like, okay, this vision involves, like, the massiveness of the vision. It's almost like it's not massive enough yet. The massiveness of the vision needs to include how you do this in a way that not just maintains your motherly nurturing elements that you bring into your household, but actually continues to contribute towards it. And
Yes,
like the vision without that component isn't the vision yet.
that's right. I think you're so spot on there. And um, that's going to be a really essential piece now. Thank you. To my approach. of, you know, what does it look like, and how to arrive at that place. That is really, you know, the result I'm looking for just just shifted from the result of building a global movement to the result of having an experience that feels that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are different costs associated with that. It's a
Yeah.
different and those are like, I have a feeling that if you see what those costs are, you'd be more willing to A, either pay those costs, or B, find ways to make them into investments. The word cost is actually something that well, we'll leave it at that. I think we'll leave it there.
I'm
Yeah.
picking up what you're putting down in
Yeah.
terms of cost
Yeah.
versus investment,
Yeah.
and you know,
That's a step beyond. Like, I don't want to go to that place there.
yeah,
I think it's really around looking at your vision and starting from that place and
yeah,
solving for that and creating that possibility, the possibility where
mm,
everything else has continued to grow. And it's wild, but it's like, in creating this massive movement, it has been in service of your number one priority, which is your family, and
mm,
playing from that place there. And I get that there may not have been examples of that you have felt that you can like see in the path.
mm.
And if that's something you choose to take on, I'm happy to support you as you're creating that path. That's the trail that you may be blazing. And if that's something that goes on,
Yeah,
that's
it's a new
good for me.
filter. It's a new paradigm. I mean, it's definitely a perspective shift, and that's, you know, what we said we wanted to do here today. So we done did it.
We done did it. And here goes the thing: if it didn't happen, we would be great too. I don't need to I don't need to celebrate that element here. I just really want to just be able to celebrate like you and the vision that you have out there. And
Well, I
my
do want to celebrate it because it's powerful and it's a gift, and I'm grateful. So thank you.
thank you, Alexis. I'm allowing myself to receive that
Yeah.
celebration and to be in it with you.
Hey.
So let's leave it at that there.
Yeah.
If I'm going to ask you this one question just to wrap us up here. If there was one practice that you would take as a result of this year, it's just something that you might do over like the course of 2 or 3 days, maybe like the course of a month. If there's one practice that could help you go through the process of integrating or exploring any insights you had today, what's that one practice for you?
I think it's to actually utilize the filter of how can this be in service of what my highest values are, and one of those highest values be my family, and the other being building this vision, and how can they serve one another, and how can I serve them simultaneously.
And let us leave it at that then. Alexis, it's
So
been,
it is.
and so it is. It's been great being able to serve you. Thank you for playing that so fully today. All right.
Thank you.